Listen up, Rangers, look with the Geek Chest. My name's Steve, and today we got a fun little video because got a commission to paint these custom 3D printed m.u.t.o figures. Which these were available on Facebook. I seen, I want to say it was like Photon Collectibles was doing these. Had them up for a pre-order window through there. I didn't grab them personally because I have a couple issues. I can go with them here, but I'm not going to do a full-fledged review of these. But I can kind of show you stuff I seen that I wasn't a big fan of. But I think for the price point, they're not bad. They're still very suitable. But what we're going to be doing here is cleaning up these figures and painting them to make them look like the movie. So first and foremost, I guess to go over the actual molds here real quick, you guys already kind of see with the male m.u.t.o, you'll notice that all the joints are different colored, which is something I'm not a big fan of. A lot of this is going to actually make painting it harder, because when you have to paint the joints, these are the first things that your paint's going to remove off of them. Because you can see, like, I'm going to be rotating this, it's going to rub and remove the paint off. Granted, I got some good primer and stuff for a base coat and whatnot, so it should help. But it's gonna rub. It's a joint. So like one thing I recommend after getting these is you want to make sure to get all black Revoltech joints afterwards. The other thing that bothers me too is like this one's shiny and this one's matte, which is kind of what I would actually like to see this entire thing. Like this one's all black, but some are glossy, some are matte finish. So consistency is not quite there, but you can kind of remove the shine from that with a good matte primer. But I think, like, detail-wise, mostly the m.u.t.o's fine, although I noticed he has a stress fracture already on his leg. So that's something I'm going to have to look into fixing, because I definitely don't want to have that little imperfection there. Also, for the female, she's got an imperfection on her shoulder here, where it's missing a chunk. And then also these little arms on here, I'm going to be honest, look like garbage. So we're going to fix them up. So for the arms, I'm going to be using epoxy putty and just going really lightly over top of it just to try to give it a little thickness and also help remove all these little imperfections. Which, to be fair, this is meant to be a kit. So when you're getting these, you're supposed to work on them. So it having a little bit of issues here and there isn't that big of a deal. But I think it having like chunks missing and like these little arms, especially when there's smaller ones on the male and they look really nice, while the females are larger and not quite as good. So personally, I wouldn't be quite happy to see that. Then the way some of the joints are designed, so I'm still trying to figure out why this joint is actually set up to kind of work like it's supposed to. But the back legs are solid, so you can't really, you can rotate them like side to side, but you can't really like move them back and forth. So it makes posability not quite as good, but it's still there. But again, I think like 80 bucks, they're like a good solid first attempt. But anyways, so I'm going to be sanding some bits down. I wanted to film that part, but I will show you guys how I'm going to be fixing some of the imperfections here. Because I know I got the camera set up a little differently, so hopefully I can show you guys a little bit better this way. But sanding. Like, I'm just going to be going around edges that I think are going to be rubbing a little bit too much in certain sections, but we'll definitely fix that part in this. So first and foremost, we'll start with the queen, because she's going to be the easiest one to work on. So I'm just going to be taking some epoxy putty, going over this section here, just to kind of help fill in some of the cracks and what have you. Alright, so I haven't used this stuff too much outside of on some model kits, but mainly what this is here for is filling in cracks, which is Tamiya putty. So this is for if you got like small imperfections in stuff. This is really good. Like if you got a little crack or you're trying to fill in a thin seam, this stuff will do you nicely, and then you just gotta sand it down afterwards. The larger the gap, you're probably going to use epoxy putty. But I want to try this stuff out first, because I got it laying around here anyways. Let's see if this will do the trick. And all I want to do is just fill in that crack. Just try to smooth it over. So, got it in the crevices there. Gonna let it cure. And do the same thing for here. Like I said, I'm just trying to fill in crevices and cracks right now. So now these, on the other hand, I'm gonna actually use my epoxy putty to try to fix this problem, because because the stuff here, the cure time on it's pretty quick, so you got to be pretty fast. That, and I think there's too much going on here wrong, especially on the front here too, that I really want to make sure that it's going to be solid on here. So on high note, got a little bit of this stuff left. Probably don't need that much. But what I got here is some 2-part epoxy, so I'm just going to be trying to measure out some equal parts. This stuff, what's again nice, if you guys haven't seen some of my other videos using this stuff, you don't have to be precise, but I try to at least get my balls about the same size, if you will. To be honest, I think I'm probably making too much, but better to be safe than sorry, right? So now I just knead this together for about a couple minutes, or until I see that the colors are uniform, because you'll see right now it's a little bit of dark colors, a little bit of the lighter gray. I just want to get it all the same color. I also probably want this stuff off my fingers. I'm just going to take a little bit at a time and just kind of go over top of this, because essentially this is going to be my new wire armature. Kind of like when I use wires and make these guys. Because essentially what I'm doing here is, instead of making like using aluminum foil and wires, I'm just going to use what they had here for the base to make these. And just take my epoxy putty and just go over the top of it, and I just want like a thin layer for it to not really lose its original shape. Alright, got 2 little m.u.t.o arms now sculpted. Just gotta let them cure and then sand down accordingly, but looking pretty spiffy so far. Alright, Macy's on the back. My apologies. Also, I'll zoom in a little bit just so you guys can see a little better. I'm not gonna go filming this entire section here. I'm generally just gonna show you guys. I pretty much got the sanded bits down so you can see, like, it's pretty well. Hopefully you can see. Put the light down. But her sanded bit's fairly well hidden now. You also see I already started painting it, because the issue I'm having, the way these joints are set up is infuriating, to say the least. But because, like for this one, the joint doesn't really work unless there's friction on the arm. So, and the problem with that is, if there's friction on the arm, that causes rubbing, takes the paint off. The other arm isn't giving me as big of a fit, because this one actually kind of holds itself. Now, I could put like floor polish or something in there. That's only going to be a temporary fix, so I don't want to do that. Next option, what I was thinking is I could take this off and maybe put something in between to cause friction, like maybe put like some foam there, so then that would kind of keep it in. That isn't doing the trick yet, but I don't know how these came together, and from what I can tell, I also can't get them apart. And initially, the way the friction problem was being solved was there's lubricant in here, so then when it's posing, it's not gonna be an issue. But the problem is, I can already see here, like me just doing this, it rubs on the plastic and it's scuffing it up. So what I had to do on this side, I sanded the crap out of it and then painted it black. And I've been trying, because my initial plan was to paint this black and then dry brush the gray over top of it. That isn't going to be the case, because even as much sanding as I've done, just so that there's some way that this is holding itself together, because I'm sure the customer is going to want this to be posable, I have to have some friction. So I got to leave it sort of the way it is. But at least now it's not going to, like, you can pose it and it'll hold the arm. I'm still going to have to do this side a little bit, but I'm not going to go as crazy. What I found out and works pretty well, and that's where I got this color here that I actually really like. And I think I'm just going to do that for the entire figure, because for the most part the m.u.t.os in the movie, it looks black, but it's actually got more of a gray to it, and then there's like black spattered here and there. And I kind of acquired the look by painting it with painting the entire thing black, and then going over it with some, I got here is nail polish remover, putting on a cloth and then wiping off the black. So then it kind of tints the plastic a little bit, but also leaves the black in all these crevices. And now I can move this around and the paint covering the top isn't really coming off, which is what I wanted. So now I gotta do the same thing for this arm, but I'm not gonna go as hard as I did. Oh, now it turns off. And then go from there, because here I don't really gotta worry. Like everything else, I should be okay with the paint. Well, like I said, doing it this way, it's gonna kind of alleviate my rubbing problem. One recommendation, if the person that made these watches this video, I actually would give up on this joint here, and what I would have done is made this one solid section and then put a Revoltech joint inside of there and to go in there, so that would connect. You would still be able to rotate it, and then you would get a little bit of like a back and forth, if you will, or whichever direction. That's how they kind of work. And then that could solve your requiring it to hold itself together. Because then you can make this opening, which is another issue I'm having, bigger so that this can fit in here, but it doesn't rub. Because that's so far my biggest complaint is I really don't like these. The same could have been said for this. This could have been done the exact same way. And I think would have saved you some time trying to figure out a joint, and then any errors in the 3D printing process, it would kind of fix itself there. But anyways, I guess I'm going to start sanding this down, and then we'll do the paint, wash it off, and see what happens. Mainly what I'm doing for sanding, popping this out, I'm just going over this with, still got a little bit of that lube in there. I start with the 100, just go around a little bit, make sure getting a little bit of friction. I mainly got to focus, this is the part that kind of gives me the most fits. So I got to definitely sand this down a bit. And then after using my 100, which you'll see here, I moved to like my 320, and then I just keep moving up, like 320, 600, and then use the 1000 to kind of smooth it out. So in the end, it should look pretty clean. But other than that, that's pretty much about it. I guess I could kind of show you guys the process. So I'm just going to sit here, sand this down a bit, put it back in, and then you just kind of just keep trying it. You don't want to go too crazy. Oh yeah, that actually already feels a lot better. Looks like I'm still might be getting a little bit of rub, but not nearly as much as I was. So I'm just gonna go wherever my piece went, just a little bit more in there. A lot of that too could just be because of this is very coarse stuff, so it's gonna leave a lot of extra plastic. That's why you got to move up with the sandpaper so that it smooths itself out. So then hopefully we won't have that problem. All right. So like I mentioned, move up to my 320. They already got cut out. Let's do a little bit of a rub. Plus doing this too, it's still going to remove more plastic. So you don't want to go too crazy. Got some 600 here. And then finish off with 1000. This is like the least fun part about working on kits. Is the cleanup. Because I love painting. Getting these things ready to paint is not nearly as fun. It's kind of why whenever I got to work on random things, I usually charge a little bit more. That looks pretty good. So I'll just double check, like so. Oh yeah, I'm definitely getting a lot more clearance now, so that's cool. So, alright, so we're going to do the painting, and then as I'm painting, I'll see if I'll start trying to find my errors here. I'll pause the video. I'm going to stop the video here because I guess I could show you guys. Really shouldn't be removing these on and off. Just what I'm doing here, and then I'm going to go through and do the rest of the figure. At least for my base here. Wherever my brush wee. Again, just taking regular black acrylic paint. Go over the entire thing. You don't have to be super liberal with it, but just make sure you get enough coverage. You'll also have to move the joint. You don't really need to get it on the actual thing because it's just going to come off. If you wanted, you could put this thing on a stand if you want to keep your hand clean. But what I do after I get some paint on it, put the brush in my mouth, hair dryer. So now it's dry. So now I can grab this part, start painting this. Again, don't have to be super fancy about it. Inside, you're going to be losing paint, so that don't matter. And I just want to make sure. Get in the joints. So now I got all that on. Take a really raggedy cloth, stick that in there for a second. We'll move the paint aside. You're gonna want to take your cloth, take your nail polish remover. You can also use like no, this stuff's fairly mild because again it's for your nails, so it's not super harsh, especially on these plastic. And then you just start rubbing the paint off. Again, try not to rub everything off, but you want to get enough. Just to kind of leave crevices, cracks here and there. So I'm just kind of patting it down, wiping off. I want it to look really choppy. There we go. So take my hair dryer, go back over it one more time. Just make sure the stuff's drying off. And then yeah. So we're gonna be doing this for the entirety of the figure. Then we'll come back when I gotta add the minor details. And here's the completed m.u.t.os, and I gotta say, probably the most pain in the butt commission I've done to date. Oh well, no, okay, I can't say pain in the butt, like as in like the most difficult, like having to figure out things. Most pain in the butt, as in I had to go back through and fix things repeatedly. But that a lot of it has to do with design. A lot of it has to do with just the way that these are done, because they're 3D printed. With the way structuring is with the 3D prints, it's not going to be as strong as say just a solid piece of plastic because it's done with layers. So there's can't think of the word, but like the bond between each of the sections of the plastic is going to be as hard as if it was just a solid piece. So when articulating these, when putting the joints in, stuff like that, it's gonna eventually cause problems the more you play with them. And then, like I mentioned in the videos, the way the joints are done for the female required a lot of sanding, and then the way I had to essentially do the paint job was to help try to mitigate the issues with paint rub and what have you, and then actually having to resculpt these little bad boys here on the arms so that they looked like everything else, you know? It just didn't look like, yeah, like, so, yeah, it just looked melted, to be honest. Now they actually kind of match the arms a little bit better. But that was the biggest issues I had with her. But outside of that, for her, the primary fix I had to do that were really bad was inside the shoulders here. Had to sand those down so that when you move the arms forward and back, it wasn't scraping the paint off as bad. And then, again, the way I painted it, even if it removes a little bit of the black, it's not going to be a big deal. And then she can still
hold her pose. But you'll definitely, especially if, if you're watching this, it'll hold its pose, but it definitely feels a lot looser now. But that's, again, just to help kind of try to save the plastic on the paint job. Then this one was just kind of loose to begin with. But as you guys can see, holds the pose, rotates, doesn't really remove the paint now, which is nice. Same with on the back here. You get the full range of motion. One thing I will recommend just to show in this video, if you guys buy this and you want to pose it, make sure when you're posing not to get all willy-nilly and just start like yanking on the joints and trying to move them around. Like this is a little bit more sturdy, but especially where the Revoltech joints are and all these little sections is where I've definitely have had the most fit. So when you're articulating, you just want to grab at the base and then do your movements. Because like you'll see this one's a little stiffer and I fear crackage. Especially if you want to, like, you feel like you need to rotate it to pose it. You definitely want to grab it at the base and then do your movements. Don't want to be like here and then trying to turn, because that's when you're going to start having a lot of your issues. Same with on top section here. So just make sure you know where your joints are, and then just take your time. Grab close to the base, move it. You want to rotate it, grab it at the base, rotate it, grab it at the base. Do your movements, do your rotations. Same with here, grab at the base, do your movements. Because the one time that I had the one I had to repair was I grabbed it and I was even like, I was still like here and moved in. It was just soon. So again, just close, apply pressure, and move. So especially if you plan on posing these, just make sure you take your time with it, because you definitely don't want to break these things. But with the paint job here, what I had to do is I painted the entire thing black, and then from there I removed paint, and that's how we got the look here. So I took some nail polish remover, put it on a towel, and just started slowly rubbing off the paint in the areas that I really wanted it to come back to the grays. And God, that really doesn't like to stay on. But anyways, again, didn't like to stay on to begin with. So that's how we got her color, and then that also helps because the gray on the underneath was not quite right for the movies, because technically this guy and this gal, or this gal and this guy, mixing them up, should be a little bit brighter. The female, you don't quite notice it, because with her, she's a lot more like messy in terms of the coloring with the blacks and the grays. Because even like, I see a lot of people when they do her, has the entire top black. But from what I see from the film and checking out parts, she's actually more gray on the top. And then there's like blacks kind of splatched throughout. And a lot of it I think is just because she's the female. So she doesn't really gotta look pretty to grab the attention of the males. While the male, it's a bit of a different story. But you can see with the eyes, got a little bit of the red there for her eye section. And then brighten it up a little bit in certain spots for the pupils, because you can definitely tell in the movie she's got like, you can kind of see where she's looking at. So definitely wanted to make sure that the figure could. Then yeah, that's pretty much it. Just everything else was just painted black, remove paint, painted black, remove paint, painted black, remove paint. So then when you pose it, it's not going to be weird. If something decides to scrape, it's not going to really matter. And because I had to do that with her, to make them match, I did the same thing with the male. Again, we would like to be a little brighter, but again, rubbing issues. This definitely helps with that. Because even with doing some clear over top of it, it's going to have some problems here and there. But with the male, you'll see that for the eyes, and again, one thing I sometimes see when people do painting, you want a lot more red on its eyes. So the red kind of spreads out as it goes towards the back of the head, and then again has the little pupil on the front here. Did black on the top, under her jaw is a little bit more of a gray. And then the pattern on this one is a little bit more, it has a pattern. But I still did it in the same way as the female, just to make them similar. But still kept like the top of the head's black, just like in the movie. The top of the wings are black. Same with the extra, the folding out wings. Top's black, underneath is the brighter color. And then the front of the arms have that black, and then it's like black, little light grays, and then blacks. So kept that mostly the same way on the male here. Same with the legs. Front of the legs is the black, and then grays towards the back. Body, it's a little bit more blacker on the side here. Had to redo this side because it decided to fly off the figure, so I had to use some epoxy putty. But I think I matched the detailing pretty nice. Popping the leg off, but you can see a little bit where the clay is, but the black definitely helps to hide that. And then that just slots up into there, so it's not super noticeable. Also with the joints, because they were mixed match joints, I had to paint them. So I kept it, like, the nice thing was at least there was enough grays and blacks to where I didn't have to do a whole lot of trying to get the joint colors. It's mainly the front legs here are painted. The back legs here and the wings have the black joints, so I didn't really have to worry about that. And then I had to redo the thighs here, which a lot of it is sprayed it with some primer, added a clear coat, and then let it cure it overnight, and then did my articulation, and that helped a lot. Some of the more problematic areas, I had to use super glue. I might show you guys a little trick with that at some point. I think actually it should be with the scroll crawler video if you guys want to check that out, because that'll probably be out before this one. But I had to use a toothpick with some super glue, went over the joint where the color is, used my accelerant to harden it, and then that helped with the rubbing. So as you can see, because this one was actually a flesh tone originally, and it's keeping the gray. And then so thankfully these ones I didn't have as much of an issue with. It was mainly the ones going into the body. I had to make sure had the glue on it so it wasn't rubbing. But this is definitely the one, if you're going to be posing it, you definitely want to grab it close to the joints and then pose it. I almost don't even recommend trying to rotate these once they're in, because that's when I've had the most issues, because I had to fix this one too, because I went to rotate it and then came off. And then that was even before I painted them, which I did remove the paint, but so you can rotate them at certain sections. But again, you want to grab it close to the base and then rotate, and that'll save you a lot of problems. But yeah, so for the most part, they're posable figures, but I would try to pose them as little as possible. Like, do your poses, you want to take your picture, you want to have them like set up in a certain way, your display, cool. These aren't meant to be played on the bed or something, having them going rah, 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 you know. It's just pretty much you pose them, you leave them, you feel like posing them again at some other point to set them up differently, great. Otherwise, I would try not to touch these as little as possible. But to show you guys how to swap the wings out real quick, and then I'll call it good for this video. You actually just want to take them out of the body here first, because the way the joint goes into the wing is a little weird. It's actually at a downward angle. So you'll see it has a little bit of bend. So you just kind of grab it here. You want to grab at the top of the wing, and then apply pressure to lift it up. And then try to show you guys a little better. Apply pressure, lift it up. So when you're going in, you want to kind of go down and you just slot it in. Don't force it though. It doesn't really need to go in there very far for it to hold. But for the actual wings, you'll see that you have to actually go up for the expanded ones. And again, you don't really got to go that far in. You can, but you don't got to go that far. And now you got the m.u.t.o with the wings out. Now it's flying and gonna attack Godzilla and stuff. But anyways, like, it was a fun project. Don't get me wrong, like, if anybody else would like me to mess around with these, link in the description for my Instagram, easiest way to get a hold of me if you guys are interested in getting a different commission done yourselves. But I will say, unless you know somebody that knows how to work on stuff, or you're good at it yourself, I'm not as high on this set as some people are, but to each their own, I guess. But anyways, let me know in the comment section below what you guys think, if you guys picked up these, and did you just like the m.u.t.os? And help us defeat those guys just by hitting that like button, subscribe, become rich today. We also got Instagram, Patreon, Pinterest, Facebook. Guys, look, keep up to date with channel and donate. We greatly appreciate it, and we'll see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.